Hey everybody. I've been wanting to do this for like a long time. And to come on here and like share my journey, as an advocate and just my journey through um, how I got to this point, because I think that I never really regarded myself, as an advocate or whatever. I just started hearing their name, where people say, "Oh, you're an advocate." But I was thinking about something today that I kind of been thinking about for a while. And one of those big things was, my journey started in 2015 when, my identical twin sister went to prison. And, at that particular time, I thought that was the worst thing that could ever, happen. You have somebody that, uh, you're close to go to prison. And at that time, I had never had anybody ever that was close to me that went to prison. Like I knew people like everybody people that go to prison. But I never like had a close relationship with someone while they went through the court system and then, you get convicted and you go to prison. And so that was my first time and I had just the most difficult time accepting that. And when I look back on it, I have a lot of regrets. Like I hate that I allowed that time in my life to be such a great mental situation that was hard for me. Because from that I end up, to this day I still have anxiety because I become so overwhelmed because I was trying to do so much and learn so much to get her out of prison. And so I was thinking today, I was like, man, I think sometimes when we go through challenging things, we're so focused on how it feels and how uncomfortable and the emotional that we don't embrace the journey. And that's one of my biggest things. I said I wish I would have embraced the journey a little bit more instead of going into such a huge fight. Because my thing was I went into more of a fighting mode instead of understanding, you know, what was happening and what person I was involved, evolving into because I changed. I remember prior to martial incarceration, I was kind of a person that I don't know, I just kind of was a person who I was passive aggressive, you know. I was more like, "Oh, just let it be, let it go." But when I start to get in connection with the criminal justice system, you can't be that way. You gotta be firm, you gotta be strong, you gotta be fearless. Because I remember the first thing, when she was in the Chief Justice courtroom in Norfolk at the time, I'm just like, I kept saying, "She's not God. This lady's not God. Who is she to think that she's God and can make these decisions?" So I think before anything, I lost fear. And I became like this very firm person, because I like to say prior to that, I took more of a religious perspective. The perspective that we taught, turn the other cheek, pray for those who despitefully, use you, get on your knees and stay in prayer. If you got to lay your face to God, stuff like that. And I think I took that as way more than, you know, face value. I mean, I took it literally. And ultimately, when that time happened, it was very hard for me to deal with because I was like, my thought process is, where is God? Why did this happen and stuff? And now that the journey has been, that part of that journey has been over for 5 years, I look back and I was like, God was there all the time. It was just a certain place that I needed to be. I needed to change. I needed to transform. And I really changed, you know. I really changed. I became a person. I was very outspoken. I was very firm. I was someone who I stood for, what I felt was right and wrong. If it wasn't, you know, uh, what I felt was just, then I spoke on it. Because I go to counseling. I'm still in counseling to this day. From that experience, I've been in counseling for 8 years. I started counseling in 2017, and I'm in 2025, and I'm still in counseling because it was so traumatic for me. And you know, um, when her and I discussed why I explained to her. I said it's not that I advocate to say that people shouldn't be held accountable if they do something wrong. I said I just say if you put rules in place, then abide by your rules. Don't violate due process to get a conviction. Just because this person is in your courtroom, don't excessively sentence them. Those are my stance. And so when I see those issues, those are issues that we have a duty to speak out on. And I think one of my biggest things that I begin to see in this journey too is I think that people forget the power we have. I said the Constitution starts out with we the people. We are the people. The people have the power. We vote. We put people in office, and we um, we vote them in office because we expect them to run society a certain way. Um, and so, that was the biggest thing that I took a firm stance on. And you know, I think that if I look back, I wish I would have embraced it a little bit more, like embrace the people, that I met, the tables I sat at. One uh I ain't gonna say one, I think two people that stand out to me the most is Miss Mary that lives in Kentucky. Miss Mary is a white lady, I'm a black woman. And Miss Mary was one of the kindest people I ever talked to because initially, I didn't know what to think of her because Miss Mary is a Trump supporter. She lived in Kentucky. I was a person, I wasn't a Trump supporter. And so I didn't know what to take from. I think that we automatically make the assumption that because somebody's a Trump supporter, they could be racist. I can admit that. And I really built a solid, firm friendship with Miss Mary. I mean, Miss Mary was one of the most encouraging people I could ever talk to, even to this day. And her and I connected, with her sons, Michael being incarcerated, and Miss Mary was a very devoted mother who wanted to see her son out of prison. It was hard for her, him being in federal prison. And one thing about it, she was, a very strong prayer warrior. And from there, Miss Mary really got her voice too, because her and I were talking. Miss Mary got a voice and spoke up, and her son was able to get out of prison early, and has been out of prison since. And I think that's been about 4 years now. And so I just say to myself, I wish I would have embraced more of those and not so much on the fact that I was saying to myself, oh my God, I just got to get, my sister out of prison. I feel like this. I think I was so, caught up in the emotion. instead of like saying, God, what is it that you want me to learn from this experience? What is it that you're trying to show me? Who am I to become in this situation? Those empower. Instead, I ask questions of, why did you let this happen, and why am I going through this, and you got to bring me out. I don't have faith anymore. And you know if I would embrace that more, I would have there's some things I would have gotten that I didn't get. Now, don't get me wrong, I did gain a lot from it, but I think there was things I should have gotten that I didn't get along the way. And so, I'm a person, I want to be transparent, come on here and talk about it. And, even to this day, I still advocate and I speak to people. But I will admit, like, as I stand and look at certain things, I see a lot of things that at this moment really bothers me. Like, a lot of things really bother me internally. You know, I'll discuss it more on the next video, but um, it really bothers me. I see a lot of people um, that's in the advocacy, like even some of the people you try to help, they give you sometimes the hardest time. And it's disappointing because, you say to yourself, my journey is over, but I never wanted to forget what I went through. So I want to stick this thing out and continue to travel this journey. And I've had a lot of trauma, from some of those people that are behind the walls, like a lot of trauma, and I'm not going to start talking about it. And I'm going to talk about it on my next live. But, um, one of my biggest push for freedom was one of my biggest disappointment as well. And so I've asked God to show me how to embrace this journey and just see that I just been given an assignment and it's not personal, because we're human, and then you don't want to be made cold, but that's been one of my biggest things. I've asked him to take that emotional part from me. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. I just want to start here because I felt down in my spirit like this is where I'm supposed to start. So I start here. All right, so tune in. I'll be back tomorrow.